want to talk about anything specifically in there? Because I don't recall what I said, and I would love to kind of.
I don't fully remember. I really don't remember. I remember like that was back when I was kind of the type of person I'm talking about now. And like everything that was slightly like dark was evil to me. And like there was this one game I talked about where there's like the skeleton in it. And I was like, that's evil. And you were like, how is that evil?
Yeah. So I think I was calling out the fact that you hadn't been able to see that there could be some margin there for God to work. And just a few things to discuss. Number one, I think that the thing that really sits wrong with me that I can't reconcile with, and more discussion would need to be had with it, is the idea of horror films and how much gore and violence and sexuality is actually necessary for the narrative for realism and what is, causing someone to stumble. I would love to have a whole discussion on that because it's neither one of us has the answer. No one really does, and I would love to explore it. And number two, I recall thinking that several of the times when you called something out in your videos, you were super like hardcore. There's no gray space here. But I think that our art and our relationship with the Lord is more, I personally view it as a journal. And when I stopped thinking that I had all the answers and I just wanted to preach the gospel, because I realized how much I don't know, right? When I finally started to make YouTube videos, and I'm like, and that's why I stopped for the last 2 months. I haven't even put out a video. I was like, how can I talk about these things when I don't know enough about them? I feel insignificant. So I realized that everything that I create should be more of an exploration between the Lord and I, and letting him lead me and guide me, and being okay with being messed up and not getting it right. But the idea is to always take feedback and constructive criticism and to refine my art to be more like Christ. And so I think, the last thing I want to say was, I don't know if I pointed this out in your videos or if I noticed it in your videos. Uh-oh, he's in the hot seat. I'm just kidding.
No, throw it at me, man. Throw it at me.
Well,
you can tell me my videos are garbage. It's okay.
No. Actually, a few things I want to say. Number one, I love that you do music, and I do music, but I never put it out there. And you're exploring different avenues of creativity. And I love seeing your progress. I watched all your videos and I looked through them and I saw how you progressed and got better at singing, at like fixing your audio and things like that. And of course you still have room to grow, but even the comments in your videos have kind of been polished and people are like, oh yeah, more encouraging as you got better. So I guess the one thing I would say is that when I make videos, my heart is to give that constructive criticism or feedback. And I almost made the same Noah's Ark video as you, laughing at it. And then I realized that it probably wasn't constructive just to laugh at it. Right. And I get that I wanted to laugh too. There were certain aspects of it that were really funny or just silly or unrealistic or ridiculous, and like catching a horse with a net. Right. And so on and so forth. And I just want, especially being on the board for CGDC now, my heart is to always be looking for a way to help people improve their craft, feel included in this journey that we're on, and feel like, with C.S. Lewis and Tolkien, they had this relationship that was very symbiotic. At the beginning of their journey, they were very encouraging. And as they got to the end of their journey with their books, they actually made their constructive feedback more critical, because they understood that the relationship they had with each other, it was just second nature. It was something that was already there. It was implied. So they get to make harder hits. And I think at the beginning, we have to be careful not to be too critical. But at the same time, the reason Christian art has sucked for so many decades is because nobody's willing to say that Left Behind was a garbage game that really sidelined atheists and made them feel excluded, and Catechumen was ridiculous because and then they start praying, or that Noah's Ark was a ripoff of the Wolfenstein engine and that it made no sense to hit something with a slingshot. I have so many ideas for videos just like you, and I make sure that we're doing it in a way that people can actually be encouraged to get back in the ring, because so many creative Christians have stepped aside. They've given up, even within our own CGDC community. And there's just so much more we have to do to grow, to be where the Lord wants us to be creatively. And I would hate to see that just fizzle out because
right.
we have this history of like 30 years, I think, of bad games and stories and movies. And that's not a reason to give up. But we do have to be excellent because that's a reflection of who God is. And if we preach the gospel, we have to reflect him accurately. And granted, it's a journey, and we have to refine that as we go, but we should aim for excellence on some level.
Yeah, I agree with that very much. And that's something I have continued to have to evolve and adapt my approach of criticism, because I have noticed that at different times where I have to pull back. And maybe sometimes I haven't as much as I should have, but in my approach of criticizing people, because like you said, like if your criticism is too sharp, you discourage that person and they don't want to try anymore. And there's always that little bit of like that voice in the back of your head that tells you, well, if you're more harsh, it's more funny. Well, at the end of the day, I have to kind of find this balance, and where people watch my video and want to continue to create content even after maybe I've said, well, there were things bad about it and so forth. But that's my ultimate goal. My ultimate goal is not to be a funny YouTuber. It's not to be entertaining. I want to be those things, but not at the expense of discouraging people. And it's so easy to do that because so many YouTubers, their whole approach is bashing content and tearing it down to the ground. And
but ultimately, I think well, there are a few things. Number one, having this compliment sandwich, right? Like you compliment something good about the art, and then you give the constructive criticism, and then you close with encouragement or edification.
Yeah, an Oreo. Yeah,
an Oreo. And I've taken to that method, and it seems to have worked for me. As a board member, there were several times over the past couple of months when I wanted to make a video heavily criticizing things, like even the community game. I had lots of feedback on that. I actually filmed the whole video, and instead of putting it out, I asked for some wisdom from some of the other board members, and they said, maybe we can use this. Maybe you could join the game and then kind of help direct it instead. And I was like, you know what? You're right. This probably would not go over well. So there are a few things on that, right? Like number one, I think we should always be in community with each other to discuss these things, to see if we missed the mark on them. And also to put out excellence. It's not a solo endeavor, right? And I think that's so many people in our community are solo devs. They all have their own company. They all have their own dream game. And the community game is great because people are working together and and working back and forth. But ultimately, I think it's important to be, bouncing off of each other all the time, not just here and now. I want to see this happening everywhere across all creative Christians. And that's the other thing. I was upset that I kept seeing you use my video ideas because we have the same mind when it comes to picking content.
Right.
But then I realized something. Who cares? Right? You have a different energy, different style, and we're both going to put out this content on the same topic in a different way entirely, just like all activity.
And I have no problem. Let's collaborate on a reaction at some point. I say let's do it.
That'd be fun, yeah. But I was thinking, other creative Christians, they have to be certain as well not to be discouraged if they see someone else, do something that they were going to do. Because the more content we have as creative Christians, the wider net we cast, the more we can have these discussions and really envelop people's lives to where, just like CHH, you go anywhere, you and I at least, and we see someone in CHH in different spaces, different places. And then we can start getting plugged into all their channels, like KB's podcast and everything like that, and Ruslan's channel, et cetera, et cetera. And it's exciting because there's no such thing as originality. I mean, sure, maybe, but but
there's really not. Yeah,
we're really in a remix generation, so why not embrace that and get excited about it? We're all going to take our own spin on it, so I don't think people should be discouraged by that, like I was. So yeah.
I think one of the best comeback stories I've ever heard, even within the Christian entertainment industry, is that of Scott Cawthon.
Never heard of him, have I? Oh,
he's the developer of Five Nights at Freddy's. And so he originally developed the Pilgrim's Progress video game.
Oh, no way.
And I reviewed the video game, and people bashed him. They're like, the game is trash, man. It's horrible. Like, they just tore him apart. And one of the criticisms they gave him, which inspired him to go on and create Five Nights at Freddy's, they told him that the characters he created, I don't know if it was just in Pilgrim's Progress, but some of the other things that he had created, like these kid-friendly characters he was trying to create were more scary than kid-friendly, and they almost looked like horror animatronics. And he took that criticism, and now he's one of the world's most successful video game developers.
Yeah,
because of that, because he didn't stop.
I think it's a movie coming out soon.
I know that there's been discussions on it. Yeah, there may be.
Yeah, like I think it's on Steam or Epic. It's coming out soon, but no, it's on PS5 too, I think. Anyway, you're right about that. And what's his name again? Scott
Cawthon.
How do you spell that?
It's Scott and then Cawthon.
Cawthon. Oh yeah, so I've heard of him. I looked him up recently. He was in the news for being berated for his game again or something like that, and I was going to cover it on the channel. But
was it the game that people speculated he was anti-abortion with?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, I heard about that. I never looked at the game, but I heard about it.
Cover things like that for like news snippets. So we should talk more about covering things that come up in the news that are related to art in general. But yeah, man, I still can't get on board with horror because I don't get it. Like we'll have to have a whole discussion on that. And
well, I think that gets into the area of, I think like I actually have this verse right over here. It's 1 Timothy 4:4. For everything created by God is good, and nothing is to be rejected if it is received with thanksgiving. And there's kind of that liberty that we have as the New Testament church, but that doesn't mean to throw common sense out of the window. Right. And there is that kind of, you have to have enough common sense to look at things almost sometimes from more of a scientific angle to see what is this doing to me psychologically? What is this doing to me mentally? Right. As well as, of course, what is it doing for me spiritually? And yeah, if there are genres that aren't necessarily black and white wrong, but they're damaging you psychologically, mentally, or however it is, then I throw those out of the window. I don't fully know what I feel about heavy metal. Like I don't fully get the entertainment value of somebody screaming into a microphone. You can't even tell what they're saying. And some people enjoy that. But, I kind of look at some of those extreme art forms as from the psychological level is like, what is there constructive, Philippians 4:8, what is there that's just pure, lovely, and commendable about those art forms? And so you have to have a degree of common sense.
On top of that, I know that some will disagree with me. I don't know if you'll agree or not. So I apologize in advance, but I truly believe, or at least in my journey in life, in my relationship with the Lord and creatively, I've come to realize, or at least accept, that the burden of interpretation of a piece of art is only half on the creator and half on the person receiving it or interpreting it or consuming it. And there's always going to be some level of things that are out of our control as creative Christians, because what could encourage somebody could make someone else depressed or suicidal. Yes. And we're just simply exploring difficult areas, but there's really no way to control all of those variables. So that's a whole...
No, I agree 100% with that. Yeah.
I don't know. We'll have to have a whole topic on that because that would be fruitful, I think.
That is a great discussion because there's so many times I've said stuff in my videos. I'm like, that's hilarious. And then somebody was like, why did you say that? What? I'm just trying to be funny. Yeah. And, and I thought it was innocent. And, there are so many times I've gotten texts or messages. You shouldn't have said that, Joseph. I'm like, come on, man. I thought it was hilarious. But yeah, it's, what you intend to portray does not always come off the way that you intend to portray it. Well, and that is one of the things that I think does stifle creativity. Yeah. Because you have to be so conscious of how other people perceive it and kind of cut back on your own ideas. And so there's always that balance. In a nutshell, there's that balance. And
it's always going to be different because everyone interprets scripture differently, even with the Holy Spirit. Yep. A different layer of their walk with the Lord because of the time in their life they are or the level of maturity. And they could, and one thought I had the other day, and I don't know how to explore this yet, but I'll throw it out there and we could talk about it some other time. I don't know why it crossed my mind. Truth is objective. Art is often seen as subjective. And we're mixing truth and art. So what does that mean? Is it ultimately an endeavor that can never fully be clarified or defined? I believe so. But I think really that the journey there is what's beautiful. And I think that's what the Lord will use because there is no true answer. And we're always going to have art from the church and art for the church, and they're always going to clash. But I think it's about having unity and exploring things. And once I met John Foreman of Switchfoot, I'm going to see him again soon. I asked him, I said, C.S. Lewis talked about having a toothache and laying awake all night, only to lay awake all night thinking about the toothache. And I thought about this idea of tension in life, about there being good and bad. And I said, what do you think about that? And he said, well, I like to think of it as a guitar string. Of course he said that. He said tension, and there's always going to be tension, but you have to have tension to make beautiful music. Otherwise, but the string, nothing will happen. And I was like,
that's amazing.
Isn't it?
Yes.
It was incredible to hear him say that. And I was like, wow, you're right. So I believe that this journey we're all on together, it's a lifelong endeavor. We're never going to arrive until we arrive. And I think that is more than creating art. That's exciting to me. And in doing so, I also want to encourage people not to just indulge in the discussions. I want them to create as well, because we always have pastors creating video games, and no shade on them, but usually that's why the games come out not so hot. And people are always embroiled in these discussions in like the ideology of Christian art, but they never actually do anything beyond what's already been done before. So I would love to see both sides of that.
Yes. And I want to come against the mindset that you have to be good and talented to jump into this industry.
Yeah, I don't want to either. I just mean that.
No, that's not what you were saying. I'm just saying for anyone who sees it that way. When I started creating videos, I was garbage. Like, don't even watch the videos I posted 4 years ago. They're embarrassing. They're cringy. Okay. I can't watch them with a straight face. And I'm not saying that I'm the big deal and I'm the hot stuff now, but I've evolved as a content creator with my music. Some of the music that I posted 2 years ago was horrible. And now it's still garbage, but it's not as much garbage as it was back then.
It depends how many subs do you have. I'm just kidding.
No, yeah. I mean, it's hilarious. Like, I consider myself a polished YouTuber to a degree, and there are people who like will just post like some meme and get more subscribers on like one video, and it's like, why? You didn't even work on that video.
They post something for 15 seconds and they have like 7 million views. It's like ridiculous.
I know. And then it's like me, I've been working for like 4 years on this, and like, just let me hit 1,000. But you don't have to be talented, and you don't have to be a prodigy to get into this industry. Start right where you're at. And if all you are is a high school student who's studying game design, man, just download Unreal Game Engine and start playing around with it. You have to start somewhere.
I have something definitely to say on that. I'm a big journaler. Like, I like writing my thoughts down. I use Google Keep for that. And I also keep meticulous notes on my game world and the universe I've been creating for 10 years. And there's this world building trap you can get into. And I think that goes for all creativity. And then I have analysis paralysis. And it was so important to me to convey the proper message of the gospel through my art. And the fact that this has never been done before in a sci-fi way, like correctly, I was terrified. And then I realized that most people won't even see what you create to begin with anyway. So just start, refine it as you go, be in constant prayer and discussion with others in the community, and hone your craft, and ultimately use it as a journal to explore your relationship with God, with others, and the way you see the world based through a biblical worldview. And ultimately, by the end of your life, I believe that the Lord will allow you to create something that is your magnum opus. And it's not about us, but I believe that He has given those in our community big dreams, because some people in the body are bigger cogs in the wheel than others. I think that. And I have a desire to do something big, just like you do. And sure, there are traps with that, right? Spiritually, and there's a haughtiness that you could have, and you have to be careful. But I want people to dive into that and stop being afraid of it, but to do it with wisdom and grace and with community. Because and the reason why people go either to the extreme of becoming a secular artist in the industry, or a Christian artist creating secular art in the AAA industry, or someone who's so paralyzed by the gospel being in a fictitious setting that they haven't even started yet. Many of the hobbyists in our community. And the middle is just start, man. Just explore. Just have fun with it. Trust that God is going to live through you. But you have to take care of your spirit, man. You have to be biblically aligned. You have to be in constant walk and trying to be obedient to Christ every single day of your life. You have to die to yourself. Otherwise, you're never going to make anything on this end, or you're never going to make anything that glorifies God on this end.